Oh, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Without any advertisement, just spontaneity. We got some time tonight, so we're going to work on getting this to looking a heck of a lot better. Won't you join me right now as we partake in a little 3D modeling? You ready? Well, I'm ready. Let's find out and make sure that we're good. When we last left off, we had conceptualized a dice tower. And the idea is pretty simple. Make it so that it functions as a dice tower. And those of you who are not familiar with them, we gamers like to roll dice for our games. And this contraption allows us to roll those dice so that instead of it just rolling it on the table, we have a little bit more flair and a little more pizzazz, excitement when we roll the dice. It still gives us the same random result, but this type of thing keeps us from rolling dice off the table while giving us a little bit of an entertainment. This creature they call a mimic. It is basically in the likes of a treasure chest or an inanimate object that has been animated and is actually a monster and not really a treasure chest. And would-be adventurers would go in here opening it up thinking that they're going to get some crazy loot, and instead they get eaten by the treasure chest, who opens its mouth up and swallows them whole. The goal here is to get a a dice tower that is able to be printed in multiple pieces with as little support as possible. I'm a really big fan of trying to eliminate support because that just is extra wasted plastic. Not to mention it's wasted printing time as well. So right now we've got it in sections, and this is just a concept. It's very rough, and we're going to be redoing it from scratch, but this is the idea. We have the top part, which has a couple of prongs that will fit into the lower piece here, which is also its own piece. We've got a few rings just for, you know, where you're holding it. This will probably be right here. This piece here will probably be separate and joined in with this, and then this whole piece will fit into this whole piece. So this piece here, that piece there, along with that ring will be one, and it will fit into the top. That way you can print it off sideways and have minimal support. This piece is the tongue. You can kind of see it's forked. It's got a groove in it so that the dice can actually sit in there and roll down the tongue into the mouth, and then you can actually see that if you go into the mouth, oops, and curve just enough down here, you can actually exit out of this hole. If I can get out of there. And you can see that there's a hole here that leads up into that cavity. And then this is going to be some kind of a shield that will have its own rod that goes through it, a little hook up here so it has its own hinge. It just basically sits on there. It's not going to be very dynamic. It'll be easy to assemble and disassemble, and then I just push that out. Since this thing is going to be so light as it is, the die, the weight, the impact, the kinetic energy will push that shield theoretically out of the way, and then gravity will bring it back to a close. It won't be in that open position. The tongue itself will be a mounted piece that fits onto that lip right there. I don't have it cut in yet, but it'll basically fit kind of like that, where you have piece down there, piece on that side, and the whole thing should should rest right there on the top of that piece. That way, there is absolutely no way that that thing is falling out, and it'll be nice and supported. The rest of this piece will all be imitation, looking like stacks of gold, coins, and treasure, and things like that, because this whole thing needs to look like a pile of treasure. This is our nifty little box. This is my printing area that I've already gone to the trouble of measuring out, making it so that I know how big of an object I can print and still fit it into my printer. And as you can see, if I move it down here and move it over there where it's not there, you can see it sticks out. And then if I move it up a little bit, the nice thing is it does fit in there, but it's just that little front piece. It's a little bit too wide. So it's something that I'm going to have to keep track of and be observant when I'm modeling this thing to make sure that it fits not just in this box, but I want it to be where it's not just huge and it turns out to be taking up too much space on the table when they're playing their game and all that. Because it needs to be compact and easy to move around, but at the same time um, large enough that it can hold these dice. And this right here, even though it doesn't have the right number of sides, it is the right size of a typical standard, I don't know, 16 millimeter. I can't remember what the standard die is, but that is the actual size. So I need to make sure that these holes are big enough for it. And I guess that's about it. The only other thing I thought about is making it somehow compactable so that maybe this tray here slides into this cone and then this tongue kind of fits into that hole. It comes off and fits vertically into that hole, and then maybe this whole thing is hinged and the thing, I don't know. It'd be nice to have this compactable so that it's easier to transport. But for now, we're going to make it one set piece. So for now, I don't want to get influenced by the rest of this stuff. So I just want to have the die and this box visible. We're going to hide, right click to bring up this menu and go to hide unselected because we don't want the things selected right now hidden. I want everything but the die and the box. And this is how we're going to start it off. Last time I started with the chest. This time I'm actually going to start it with the base because it's going to take up the most space and it will dictate the size of everything. So we're going to actually start off with that in this term. And basically it's going to be just a kind of a conal shape. So what we're going to do is start off holding T for top, F3 to make it solid so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going, now I'll take that back, F3 again to make it wireframe because I want to temporarily draw the cone in here to get my general size of what I want it is. I want the treasure pile, the actual coins, not the tray that the die dumps into, to be, it'd be ideal if it's this big. It's almost 50 millimeters. Let's see if we can't do something like around that. Let's go 50 and 25. Check real quick. I usually have, because I'm being obviously from America just for my accent. I am not good with millimeters, so I usually have a converter over off screen that does my conversion for me so I can get a frame of reference of how many inches it is. And that's 50 radius, 50 millimeter radius. So it's actually 100 millimeters in diameter. So this is 4 inches right now in diameter. P goes back to perspective mode so I can see. That's basically a 4-inch piece there. Now let's move the die. Oops. Let's move the die over. And we can see that that gives us quite a bit of room depending on how wide we want this treasure chest. But assuming the chest is not much bigger than that, um, we can actually shrink the radius down a little bit of the top so that it gives more. This is the plateau of the cone. You can see it if I actually give it some height. Yeah, you can see it now a little bit clearer. But that is kind of the plateau. And assuming that we make it high enough, then all of this will be the somewhat of the chest. It'll be morphed though, but that's a lot of space to put the die in. So we can kind of go with this general shape. I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to zero everything. And by zeroing out, I mean making it so that this is my origin right here. This is where 0, 0 is. So in other words, if you count each one of these boxes, it's 1 increment. And usually I try to get it so that when it prints on the printer, it has to be right there. This is what the printer perceives as the surface of the printing surface. If you have it below, it does not like that because it doesn't interpret it. So right click your selected move and then simply go to the Z or Z right here where it says -85 millimeters. Just right click the arrow beside it and that zeroes it out, assuming that your axis is on the bottom side, and it should be if you build your boxes and geometry in perspective mode. It'll always be or top mode for that matter. It'll always be at the bottom of your object. Do the same thing for this. See, I've got it sits at the bottom. So if I go in here, right click that and got -56, but if I right click the arrows, it zeroes it out. Now I know that I'm on the spot that I want to be at. Okay. So that is my general shape there. So I know that I've got that part. Now, again, I'm just using this as reference. I'm not using that conceptual one because I don't want to actually be influenced by some of the, it was a really poor geometry and I want to have a fresh mind when I approach this again. But I am going to go in here and select my polygon by adding edit poly. You can also change it just by dropping down edit poly in your modifier tab, which is right here. We've gone over this before. If you've followed along in any of the other YouTube videos, which I encourage you to do if you've got some time to kill. I try to be as informative as I can as I go step by step. It does slow me down quite a bit, but I feel it's important if you're watching this that you're interested in 3D modeling in general, and more importantly, 3D Studio Max. And instead of just having simple tutorials on situational things where, okay, well, this is how to do a loft, this is how to extrude, this is how to chamfer. You'll learn all of that if you watch just someone doing an actual model, an actual scene. It'll all come up. And that way you can watch it all together and see how to approach each step, each problem as it comes up. So in this case, I want to pull this piece out here. And by that piece, I mean this kind of a smiley section right here. And I want to select the polys. And really, I just want to select the bottom piece, the bottom row. And I'm just going to select, make sure that it's the same one. I don't want to select this one and this one. I want to make it sure that you can draw an imaginary line right across it. And that makes the extrusion very easy. I just want to extrude this time, so instead of extruding the button, I click on the settings button. You see it highlighted right there. It gives you, 9 times out of 10, you want to click the settings button on all of these if you have the option, because it gives you more control as you make your adjustments. Right here, I basically am going to ignore this part. This just tells the program in what way do you want to extrude things. And I don't want to go through all these things, but they all perform differently and you can experiment on your own. But the main part here is the amount of extruding. And this is what I'm going down with the height here. I just want to come out with it. Now you see how what kind of an ordeal this is. It went upwards. Why did it do that? Well, it's because if you look at the profile of this slope, The face of this, the polygon, is actually, if you make a perpendicular line from that face, it's actually pointing upward because this is a slope, and the perpendicular line would be up here. And you can actually follow along with this by changing um, your coordination system to local. When you have your move selection, you change this to local. It's usually view. And what it does, you can see how that the z-axis is now pointed in this general upward arc, and that is because it's pointing in the direction of where that polygon is facing. So in order to prevent this, because I don't want it to go up, I want it to go straight out. I want it to be lateral to the ground. We'll go back to actually this section that I ignored earlier, because this, now that it's important. Group normals is what it's doing now, and it basically just extrudes it in the direction that it's facing. But if you go to local normals, instead of it doing upwards, it goes outward, and it still goes up like that. You see that? You see the difference? All of them are together and they're going in one direction. Normal, they're all going in the direction they're actually truly facing. They're still going upwards, but now they're going in the direction they were, as opposed to one direction. Now, poly, I very rarely use it, but it basically splits them off, and they truly go specifically in the direction they're supposed to. But if you go to local normal, you can actually see that they widen, because these are still attached. They're not separated. And so they widen these pieces out. Now we can work with this, even though it's not ideal. We can fix this by just clicking OK. I do not want it to go any farther than that, because that sticks out far enough. I'm going to push F and then Z. F to get to the front view, Z to zoom in. F for front, Z for zoom. And then at this point, I have these pieces here. And really, I could eyeball this like that and think that that is good enough. It's flattened out. But if you zoom in real close, it's not even close. You see all this gap right here, because the purple is your 0. You don't want to ever have a gap. Even if it's a slight gap, you want it to be nice and even, because this is a program that excels at being perfect on measurements. There is no excuse for needing to eyeball things, because everything is really measured up. So in order to do safely, you can go back to your top, and what I sometimes will do, there's many ways of doing this where you can flatten this thing so it's flattened down to the ground and it's not angled. But one of the ways I've found that was really quick and easy is by making the Create tab, going to your plane, and then having basically the bottom. Here, we'll go back down to perspective so we can actually see this in wireframe. This, I know, is on, we've already zeroed that off. So I know that this base down here, this bottom part of the box, is at 0, Z, or Z axis. It's where I want this all to come down. I want to have this gap about the same size, so what I'm going to do is take the poly to the plane, snap from the 0, so I know that it's coming from, this will be on, I'm making a plane on the 0 plane. But I want to go and snap it to one of the corners of my extruded piece, the bottom part preferably, because you're going to be snapping the bottom part to this. Now, check this out. We go back to selecting our main object. We lower down and we pick vertex instead. Go to your top view, because I find it's easiest to select in this regard, and you want to hold down Control and drag over just the vertices, ignoring everything else, just these right here. Go back to your perspective mode, turn on snap, make sure that's with S is your short key, but otherwise it's this number 3 up here that you see up here at the top. Click on that, that's your snap tool. And what that allows me to do is take that same vertice that we made that plane snap to, make sure that's highlighted with that yellow, knowing that you're about to snap something, and then drag it down and make sure it snaps to that plane. Now what I know for a fact, because I made this plane here, that now whole thing, if we go to F, we can see that it's actually, well, it was supposed to be flat as a pancake, and it is on the one vertice that we did, but not the others. Why did that do that? Well, if we go Control Z to come back up there, and we go to hit F again, we can take a look at this. The way you can actually tell, it's really difficult to see, but if you right click your select and move tool up here so you can actually bring your coordinate system up, just select one of the vertices. This happens to be the vertice that I had matched the plane to. I'd snapped the plane to. It says 13.213 millimeters off the 0. Okay, it's 13 millimeters from this purple line. Now, let me go out here to this one. It looks like it's on the same line, doesn't it? Now watch the Z. See how it changed? Not by much. 1/10 of a millimeter is all it was. But it did change. It's because that this whole platform right here is not on the same plane, because all of these came up at kind of a different angle just because of the geometry of the cone itself. And the way to solve all this is you just want to make sure that all of these bottom rows are on the same plane. Over on your panel in your right, there is a Make Planar button. That's going to be your landmark to look for. To the right of that is your XYZ buttons. These only will select all of the vertices you have selected. They will align them on the same plane as the button you picked. And we want them to be vertically, that you want it to be like perfectly horizontal. So that, in other words, the 0, the Z-axis, they want this number to be the exact same. Okay? You don't want to type that number in either. Do not go in here and type in 15 millimeters here, because I find that what Max does is it takes all of the vertices that you have and it averages out so that there is a medium distance between the lowest one of these and the highest one will be 14. It doesn't quite flatten it out very well. This is the sure way that you know that it gets flattened out, by hitting the Z button right here. And watch very closely. See how that just moved just a second ago? Do it again. It's real faint. See? That now is straight as an arrow. And those are the little minor things that you have to be observant on so that you know your lines are nice and straight. Otherwise, you're going to find you have a messy model, and down the road, it's going to be really problematic. There's going to be times where you're trying to line things up, and nothing seems to line up because it's just a fraction of an inch or a fraction of a millimeter off itself. Now that it's all leveled out and completely set up, we want to do the same thing for the top one too. But we just want the top piece. We don't want this. This is part of the cone. This is actually part of the extrusion. And we do the same thing, just hit Z. And now we've got them all selected. We can go back to polygon. It still has it all selected. And you can either do the polygon, this method, or you can select all the vertices like we did a second ago. But either way, you want to have your snap tool on, S, to get that yellow. I tend to push spacebar. Not sure why it's doing that. Let me see here. Interesting that it's doing that now. Usually what the spacebar does is that, well, it does this. It locks it in so that I cannot select anything else other than, I'm trying to click other stuff right now. It'll move stuff. It'll move it all you want, but it will not let me click polygons. This little button down here. Now the default button is spacebar. Now it's working, where you put spacebar and it locks it in. I typically like to lock in my selection before I move, because otherwise, if I'm selecting stuff, sometimes I select other polygons and accidentally move them. I want to go ahead and snap that back, and now when we go back, we can see that it's actually nice and smooth. It's right along the base. We know for a fact that's looking good. And it's looking very nice. Okay. So now we can get rid of this plane because we only used it for a measurement tool. And this gives us kind of an idea of what we're wanting it to be. And we can worry about details later, but right now this is solely so that I have an idea of my shape. I'll actually rotate it, making sure that my angle snap is turned on. I almost always have this thing turned on. I just very seldom turn this snap tool on. This is one of the most important ones because it will snap at as it rotates. It snaps it in increments of, well, I've got it set up as 10, but you can set it up, or 5 actually, but you can set it up to anything you want. But I don't like when I rotate. Otherwise, if I rotate it without it, it goes to the hundredth of a millimeter and, well, hundredth of a degree actually in this case. You can see 18.32 right next to the cursor there. I don't want it to be 18.32. I want it to be 19 or 18 or 18.5. So I always have this thing turned on so that I can easily go the distance I want. If I don't want it to be increments of 5, if for some reason I do want an 8-degree rotation, then I can type that in by just right-clicking the rotate button so that it brings this up, and then you can go in here and put like 8, and it rotated 8 degrees. Okay. For now, I want it to be 90 degrees down because I'm going to just use that as a reference. And from now on, I want this whole thing zeroed in. I want it to be at the 0 axis for the, not the whole thing, but just this circle because it seems like that's a good point to put it. I can sit there now and I can see I've got a good start. This is not what I want, but this is purely there just for my reference in size, so I can kind of don't really need this anymore. I will keep the die just because it's something to kind of reference to, but for the most part, we're just going to rock and roll. Now, I plan to working around this cone, so and the big bulk of it is going to be a whole bunch of little rings. So let's start making our coins. This is going to be really taxing on the computer because we're going to be making a whole bunch of rings and extruding them. We can extrude them out, but you can also make them literally coins like that. I'm going to make sure that the polys are as low as we can. We just went to the modifier. This is the cylinder. You can crank these up as much as you want, but I highly recommend not doing that. It just depends on how big of these coins are going to be. And right now I'm thinking that's a good enough size so that it's plenty of shape. But I don't want to add too many faces to it because there's going to be so many of these. And I mean, you just look at that. It's going to be completely filled by that. Now, another way you could do it is actually going in and extruding things. If you went in there, as an example, and made yourself a cone, and you can go in there and actually increase the height segments. This 5 here, I'm going to turn that to that so you can kind of see. Well, maybe it's better to, it's just a bad color. I never like these light color there. You can see the lines a lot better. All right, now watch this. You can go in here and actually set up the number of segments so they're kind of like the same thickness as the coin is right there, and then increase your size to however you want, something like that. Then you can add a poly, edit poly, and then actually go in here if you really wanted to and take like 2 of them because they're about the same diameter. And you want to bevel this thing out, and I kid you not, you can actually go in here, bevel it, and shrink it down. Yep, you don't want to shrink that down that way, but you do want to extrude it out a ways. And you don't want them to be up like that. You want it to be all flat because that's what coins do. They stick out like this. And then you can actually go in here and move these in and move this in so it looks kind of rounded in a way. Well, That's more like it. You can even go to the top view and do it. See, it's kind of rounded in a way. So now, all of a sudden, it kind of looks like a coin. Something like this. Now do that 40 million times on that thing. And you can select a whole bunch of them, and they would look pretty cool, and you would only have one solid object with a whole bunch. You wouldn't have to do any boolean like we're going to be doing with this. And the boolean is really taxing on the computer. You got to be patient. You've got to save often. We've worked on boolean before. You've seen the results, sometimes good, sometimes bad. So these are two options you can go into. So right now, we're going to take a second here. Let's see here. Get rid of that to begin with. Really looking at my notes here, because like I said, I don't like to go completely blind on this. After I did my initial concept, I went back in, wrote some notes, trying to get this thing a little more efficient, and came back with a little bit more guidance. So basically, I'm going to put these coins in about midway through like that. Okay. And really, I'm just going to grab them, and this is going to take a while, but this is how I'm going to do it because, you know, I like tedious things. So we're going to start here in this corner here because that seems like a good place to part. And I'm going to not even worry about, and I'm not going to instance these. And the reason is, and this is kind of dangerous because if you want to make changes to these, it is nice to make them instanced because you can change, because I'm going to be making a ton of these. And if you change one, the rest of them will change. So the problem is if you instance them, then you cannot boolean them. You will have to go in one by one or find you a script, which they're out there, that kills all the instances. You cannot boolean two instanced objects. So, gotta go to copy. And I don't want them to overlap because that's not how coins would work. They would literally be sitting here, but I don't want them to be the same depth. That's the nice thing about human error here, is that as long as they're on this, and they're right now on 0, or down there where I want them to be, but I can go in here and just move them about however I want. Matter of fact, I can go top and move them this way. And really, if I overlap them a little bit, it's not that big a deal. But I don't want to overlap them outside the cone, but inside I can do like that, something like that. And they can come out. They can be more inside like that. That's fine because it's going to be the more unnatural, or the more natural it'll look by making it more random like this. And we're just working on the base because, as we all say it, it's all about it. And we're just going to go around. And just kind of do our own thing. Don't worry about screwing it up here because you can't. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Even if you overlap them like, even if you overlap them like that, who cares? It'll be okay. It won't be the end of the world. Just try not to overlap them that much. Just make it so that they're, kind of laying together side by side, because you got to imagine this is the bottom part of the tray of the whole pile. So you got a pile of coins here, a pile of treasure, and it's all going to be stacked up, stacked up. Now the nice thing is we're not going to have to fill in all of this. There's no need for that. We're just going to be making a cavity of it, and that's actually going to work out even better for us in designing this, because it'll give us plenty of room to make the tube, which all we're going to do is make a little cylinder, hollow it out, and that will be the cavity that actually is inside where the die actually rolls. And that way we can easily attach the tube to whatever we want, and it'll be all nice and pretty. Okay. Let's see. Something like that. See what I'm saying now? And we'll join these up later on, but for now we're going to just start working our way up a little bit. And again, we're not having to worry about this cone, because right now the cone is just there for fun. Now on this one, we don't even worry about that. This one, the second row, we want it to overlap the two, because this is the important part, because the first row is side by side, and most of these are not close enough to Boolean. You won't be able to fuse them together. In order to fuse two objects together, they can't just be side by side. They need to be overlapping them significantly. The more the better. But then at the same time, sometimes too much is too much for the program to Boolean. When you have them too close together, if they're overlapping each other perfectly, Boolean does not work very well. So there's a finite line between the two. But here, we're going to use the second row as kind of the joining welding point. So when we want to do this, is just hold down Shift. I'm holding down Shift this whole time to make, and then dragging, and that makes the copy in case you're needing to refresher from the last time. And this time I want to make sure that I hit my line tool, which is right here, up here, and I just click on one of these coins. It doesn't matter which one. And by default, the first time you boot up Max, it's always going to default to the pivot points. We always want to make it to center just for now, because it's right now, it's X, Y, and Z. It's centered to this little coin. So I've got two coins on top of each other right here. You just can't see it. But we can change by unselecting the Y and the X. We just have the Z selected now. And the current object, which is my object here, needs to be with opposite of the target object, which is this one. So this is my anchor point, is what they're calling it. This thing right now, if you looked at it, it's supposed to be at the bottom. It's not. It's up at the top here. So I actually want this thing to be at the bottom. So I want to make it minimum. And that almost got it up there, but now I want not just this thing, I want this minimum to be at the top of this piece. Well, the top is the maximum, the bottom is the minimum. So if I change the target object, which is this, from center to maximum, it then takes the minimum of my target or my current object and places it on the maximum of the target object right there, the current to the target. And then click on OK. And now you know that the piece is nice and even and right there sitting on it. There is a good way of Booleaning it. And you can test this out right here, right now, by going to Create tab, which is the first one up here. Get your drop-down menu and go down to Compound Objects, which is where the Pro Boolean hides these days. Click Pro Boolean. Do not worry about the roll Boolean. There are two different kinds of Booleans. This is the old Boolean. It's still there. It's the original method to fuse two objects together. They left that in there because sometimes that actually works over Pro Boolean. I don't know why, but for some reason, on a rare case, I use regular Boolean. But 9 times out of 10, Pro Boolean is the way to go. You click it. That will automatically convert this object to a Pro Boolean. You want to make sure that you are good to go on this because you can undo this, but if you move too far, it will collapse all of your work. If you have a whole bunch, you can see right here, it changed to edit poly. It changed it to the word Boolean. So now I don't have any editing capabilities on this object anymore. So if I go to my modifier tab with Pro Boolean, I have subtraction. I don't want to do that. I want a union, which is right here at the top, because I'm unifying. I'm joining these three together. And then I want to start picking. I just want to pick the bottom one and the bottom one. And it looks like it fused great. And now when I move it, I've got all three pieces. Now that was just a test. It was only a test. So that just shows me that I'm good to go of placing it right there on those circles and seeing seeing what I can do there. One second here while I take care of more technical difficulties off screen. Sometimes live works that way. Stand by while technical difficulties are being worked on. All right. Now the technical difficulties have been resolved, at least for now. We are moving on. So yeah, we're basically just going to go in here, and the nice thing for you guys, well, I mean, if you're watching live, which no one is, but when you're watching this recorded, it'll be fantastic for you because you're going to get to just skippity-doo-dah right past this monotony of me modeling this up. I could like try to time lapse this, but there's no point because all you have to do is just, skip ahead because you know how to do that. And here we go. We just have a little crazy music session going on here, and da 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 da. And again, randomness is best. Don't worry about making it perfect. If you want to overhang some, if you want to overlap it a little bit, that's fine. Who cares? But we're going in hard. The main thing is that you're trying to make sure that at the two of the coins below are joined up like that. If they're not, then you're going to have a big problem. But hopefully the ones up above are going to make all the difference. So you're going to be making several rows of this, and it doesn't matter because it's all going to be the same. All the rows that you put together should be able to fuse themselves together. And we have come around to the victory on the other side. Now that we have these all together, if we can just temporarily leave that, we'll see that we're making some kind of progress. Now, the progress is getting very slow, I will admit that, but it is going. Now, you may say, why don't you just select a bunch of them and, copy them vertically, and then you got them, it's all worth that way. Well, then you got more consistency. And it's all about the heart and soul and the tediousness. The whole point is to try to make your life as tedious as possible so that when you get it all done, you're like, wow, I really wasted a lot of my time and effort there. Where did the days go? Why do I have this beard? Things like that. Now, the one thing I do want to note is that I am going to be slowly following the slope of this cone. And that's important because I want the thing to look like a pile, like a Gomer pile. So when I'm working on these, I'm actually going to be pulling these off a little bit. I'll probably be working on be doing a little bit both here, switching back. F3 gets my wireframe. And I'm keeping an eye on both overlapping and the pile itself, making sure that I'm following along as more or less up the chain. Come in here. Actually, that's a much easier way of seeing it in here too. It's a mighty fine idea there. Some of you are thinking, well, why didn't he do that earlier? Duh, I was screaming at this TV and the computer monitor, trying to figure out, why didn't he just look at it from inside, and then he can see exactly where he needs to go. Uh-oh, put that in wrong. That's stupid. Okay. Don't call me stupid. I'm doing the best I can. I'm in a dark cave now. Ooh, with all these pink pellets. See how they are overlapping very easily now? So if you put all these booleans together, which is going to take a sweet long time to do, at least it'll be recognizable that all the pieces are going to be, one piece. And if it doesn't kill the computer, then it's going to turn out to be mighty nice. Now, one thing that is going to be a problem is that places like that, you might have a little bit of support that's going to be between those. To me, that's not a big deal because it's just to me, support actually can work to your advantage by filling in gaps. I want this to look solid, but yet look like it's independently made up by coins. So when I have little gaps like that, there'll be support in there. And that's fine. No one's going to even notice, but it's going to make that whole thing stronger and keep it nice and supported. So I'm not really too worried about it. And the pieces up here, well, again, they'll be in between here and here. So there may be some issues with making this thing look like coins are overhanging here. And if that's the case, that's a lot of cleanup. That's a big problem with support. is you don't want to have a little bitty nooks and crannies with support pieces, and something to always keep track of. This may be something that I am going to have a lot of difficulty with it printing off like this. Um, Another option, instead of doing it this way, and I really don't know if it's going to work that way, but you could theoretically do it this way. Go in here, and if I can remember how to do this right, let's see. So you go in here, you make a, man, you make it, I did this one time before. Let's see, I want to say, so you do actually overlap them. And you go in here and pro Boolean union, start picking, you pick the two together. And then you take another cylinder, and let's say it's the same size and whatnot. And you go up on the top here, if it can actually get up on the top, get up there. And then you do it like this, where there is no overhang, and you basically fuse them together all as one as you're working. Of course, I didn't do that quite right, but that kind of gives you the idea. And then from here, before you actually do that, let me back up a little bit. From here, unbooling, yeah, thank you. You put the coins in by half, like that, and you just put one little segment in the two of them. Go back to your boolean. You see what I'm about to do here? I bet you are. And then union it together. See, they go away. Okay, well, fine. Just be that way. Add a poly. Select edge. Go and select just the sides. Click on your connect button down here, your settings, so that it gives that slice there. And then you'd boolean that coin on the top, much like this, but now you could go in here and theoretically select, well, if you go into your top view, and I don't want any of the other coin, I just want this coin, and I don't want the top, I just want the bottom. Again, I clicked on that. You always got to be careful when you're clicking stuff like that. And then from here, you go in here and all you do is extrude it out with it saying select local normals, and then just come out just a little bit. And now you've got little key right there. And if you do the same thing for the other guy, little fella here, but don't select that stuff. Just make sure you don't have the other one. Just have that guy. You go in here and just deselect that. Yeah, it's all messy, I know, but doesn't matter. Select all this piece. You don't want the top piece either. You just want the bottom piece. You don't want all this special mumbo jumbo. Something like that. You just want, just for examples, I know this is very messy, but you can go in here and then change it just a bit so that it comes in a little bit more than the other one. And you don't have to worry about the little gaps, but from a distance, now it looks like you've got a couple coins. Granted, they're different sizes, but who cares? Coins can be different sizes, and that may be one way you can do it, and then that way you don't have any overhang. If you want to do it this way, you should be able to do that. Yeah, there we go. taking notes on that. I don't know if that's really going to be that great of a deal, but yeah, it's an option. I'm going to go with this and just kind of bite the bullet because I know there's going to be overhang, but I still think this will actually look better than doing it the other way, because that's going to be a hell of an overhang right there. It may get lucky and it won't print off any supports, or it may just print off supports in the inside part, and so you could do it that way. One thing I would like to do, I think I can actually make this see-through by freezing. Nope. I think you just have to go to Objects, right-click, go to Object Property, See-through. See-through. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So what I did there is I selected the actual object, went to right-click, go to Object Properties, and then on the right here you have See-through. You can actually make just one object see-through, and that way, boy, that makes it a heck of a lot easier so you can follow that in. So what are we on? Row 3. We don't want to do that. We can actually freeze this now, I think. Yeah, we can freeze it. That way we don't accidentally touch it anymore. We really don't need it. I just want to select the coins. Just the coins. Like I said, we're just following along that little slant, if you will. Not really. Oh, by the way, I want to save this. That would be awful. Save. And then we're going to go to Mini Dive Tower, and we're just going to hit this. I already got the original concept that I've got saved here. I don't want to really mess with it. So I'm going to hit this plus button right next to it. That automatically just makes a copy and just numbers it 01. You can see right up here at the top, Mimic Tower 01. You can just do that, and that makes it an iteration. I get in the habit of doing that all the time because it's just smarter doing it that way. You don't want to override files unless you just absolutely need to, or it just is a minor thing. It's no big deal, but you try not to override files. Why is that? 2 reasons that I can think of off the top of my head. There's more than that, though. 1, corruption. Files in this don't always get corrupted, but they do. And there's times where you open the file and it says, sorry, it's corrupted. It's screwed. When you get a corrupted file, you are done. I don't know a single person out there. There may be some genius that can actually pull off magic out of their hat and get your file back. But to my knowledge, once it's corrupted, it is done. And you have lost all the data within it. Good luck. You're not going to have in it ever again. So that's one big problem. I've only had it corrupted a couple of times. Usually it's when the stupid things, man, used to have a problem where the file would corrupt. Oops, we made it a circle. Used to be where the file would corrupt if it's being saved and the file and the computer crashes or the program crashes while it's saving. That is a sure way of getting your file corrupted. Just like when things are being saved and it's whatever it is, your flash drive, your Nintendo, whatever, PlayStation, and it says please do not turn this thing off while it's saving. Yeah, you do that, your file's gone. So that's one reason. The other reason is so that you don't screw up and change something that you have to go back to. There's times where I've found that I'm using a camera system with keyframes, and the camera gets screwed up. I don't know why. I accidentally moved it. Now it's out of whack. It needs to be precisely in the spot that I put it in. So I delete it, and then I can merge in the camera from the previous version that I had saved, assuming it isn't corrupted or moved around, and merge it in, and it'll come back in the same spot as it was before. So it's basically a backup is the way to do it. All right, we're on to the fourth dimension. Pretty nifty. Looks like a pile of coins to me. Yeah, there's going to be some overhang. Look at that bad boy. That's going to be some serious support problems right there. And we may have to just move that in a little bit and do it that way. And you can overhang it a little bit, but there may be some that we're a little bit too overzealous on. Bottom row can be out as far as it can because it's a support piece, so I'm not too worried about that. So there you go on that one. So we're on this one. There's a 4. I have not been streaming very much in this entire summer. And let me talk about that while we're doing some monotonous stuff, because I'm sure the people would be interested in knowing where you been. Where you been? Well, I'll admit that Simple Polytricks is not a full-time job. And some of you astute colleagues have figured that out already. And you probably have also figured out that there's not many people that are actually working for this company. And by not many, I mean like one person. That'd be me. This started out as a hobby. Pure and simple. I got tired of my boss at work telling me to make certain things that I didn't want to make, and it was hindering my creativity. I was also using a program I don't like at all, which, yeah, it's a shame. I've got to be using it because I personally can't stand it. I don't need to for the sake of being identified, and I don't want to get back, making it sound like I'm just a jerk, because I am grateful for the job that I have. But the sister of this program, 3D Studio Max, has sort of a sister program. It's completely different. People can argue with me all day long that it's the same. It's not. It's definitely different. It does similar things. It has similar executions. And I absolutely cannot stand it. I think it's clunky. I think the system is backwards. It may be good for character modeling, but it isn't good for general modeling purposes, I think. I think it's awful. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So anyway, I wanted to continue my knowledge and keep the years I've used to learn this program sharp. So I've gone in and I've sort of started this whole thing to kind of keep my mind off of other things, and it was a good way of escaping, kind of like video games. And after a while, I started looking into 3D printing. I was just actually modeling for the first time. I wasn't really worried about even coming up with a company. And then I kind of got the idea. I was like, well, doing this thing, modeling, be nice to make a couple bucks. Why not? Let's see what happens. And I was always fascinated with 3D modeling, or 3D printing. So I said, why not? I'll get into it. So I did. And studied up on it. got a little bit of knowledge in 3D printing, something that I felt like I was, comfortable enough I could get into it, and I got started with it. Um, and then I was realized, okay, well, if I'm selling any of this stuff, I've got to have a company, and if I have a company, I've got to have like a company name, and I got to actually have an LLC, got to file for that. It's all good stuff. So I did all that and decided, you know what, just go with it. But the problem is, now to make a long story even longer, it turned out that this summer I have been trying very hard to learn this said sister program that I cannot stand. And as a result, with a very little training, I've had to self-teach myself the program, and as a result, it has taken me into the twilight hours of the evening to get any kind of a comprehension of training done, plus, actual work, which takes a while. So instead of getting home at normal time where I can get on here and get on the stream and show you guys how awesome I am, I'd get home real late, and at that point I just really just didn't feel like getting on here and just wanted to relax and vegetate. 9 times out of 10, I would only have a couple hours of time to rest, and then I'd need to be in bed, asleep, so I can get up, start over the day again. So that was the last 3 months, and I'm hoping that tide has passed, and I will not have to repeat that again. This is a tray. I don't want these to come in like the main piece, because I want these to be the wall and not an incline. Because if it can be inclining, then it just shrinks that whole area down. So there you go. So continue on. So that's been the basic reason. I have dearly missed doing this, because even though this is just kind of a hobby that happens to occasionally make a little income that pays for the equipment that I use so I can make stuff to sell to you guys, so you can have cool stuff to play with. It's really just a labor of love. And just like a lot of these guys that do this stuff, we're not here to make the money. Although it'd be really cool. I'd give anything to be able to do this for a living and just do this all day long. Model stuff like this, go live stream. I'd live stream 8 hours a day if I could, and model whatever came to mind. All these cool stuff. Work on printers, 3D printers, get them all done so they look cool. And then do Kickstarters, or even start a small little online website or something like that I technically already have, but make it better than it is. It's still looking cool. Save. Save. We shall face the enemy head on. So, round 5. This is going to take literally days for me to do this. Now, what would also be possible is that you could have done it this way. I just thought of this. Is doing it the old cartoony way. So you got your stack of coins. So they draw this like they did back in the old days, and they take a copy out of here. And what they do is they put like a couple like that. and then they bring in a couple more, but they go up higher, like that. Do the same thing, bada bing, bada boom. And they do that with like several of it so that you have kind of an implied look of coins in a big pile. Hogwash. We're doing 3D modeling. It needs to be as cool as cucumber.
Oh, the tediousness of this work is amazing. I'm blown away by how I am staying with it. I must be mad. I must be mad. No sane person would go about making row after row after row after row of coins. But this allows my mind to relax, for I do not need to even think about what I'm doing. In fact, not even thinking about what I'm saying, as you can rightfully guess right now. I don't have to worry about comprehension or vocabulary or math or history or how to use Maya or how to use this program. It's all muscle memory at this point. And you just roll with it. Okay, we're making progress. Now, the important thing is that we do not want to go we definitely don't want to go within that circle too much. The reason being because that's going to be our rooftop. Rooftop. So we may want to bring in some of these pieces that are too far out. Yes, bring them in. They're like, oh my God, we have to go through all of this over again. Well, sometimes you have to just break a few eggs. It's just part of it. There's nothing to it. That's part of the business. Okay? That's just how it goes. You got to tell yourself, okay, how far am I going to go on this job? Am I only going to half-ass it? Or am I going to do the whole thing? Am I going to make it look good? Am I going to make it look cheap? Now, if I make it look cheap, is anybody going to care? Is anybody going to want them? Nope. Does it blow them away? Yep. Do you like cookies? Nope. Ice cream? Yep. That's right. Actually, I like ice cream. I like ice cream and cookies. You can send both if you'd like. In exchange for 3D models. I will do that. No, I'm kidding. I will not do that. I will just take your ice cream and then run away. Oh my gosh. What did I do this for? Oh. Terrible things have I done today. Well, I think that looks a little bit better. Maybe a little bit.
Just a little bit. Oh no, this is way too far back. I don't even know what time I started. Don't care anyhow. I'm just going to start working. When I get tired, you know, I stop. When I was hungry, I ate. You know, when I had to go, you know, I went. Oh, bolly. Bollock. Bolly. Push. Na 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 na. Boy, there's going to be a lot of overhang on this. These may turn out just absolute like crap. That's going to be just horrible feeling when I print these things out, and all this overlap is just going to just make it just a mess, a total mess. And I'm going to be like, crap. I'm going to start all over again. Now, if I have to do this over again, and I can't do it the way that I want to do it, I would not have the overhang, or at least not have it near as much as it is here. And I would fuse the pieces together by layer. So I'd have the first layer fused. And I should have done that to begin with, really. And I'll probably do that here. I'll probably fuse it by the layer. You know, row 1, layer that, fuse that, pro boolean, and then move on to the next one. Oh, I guess I gotta have one more. So that's row 6, and it looks like I've got like just a metric crap ton left. But it definitely is coming along really cool. I'm excited about it. It's something I really thought, this is a good sign. I like it. It looks like a pile of treasure. It's something that I would like to have in my possession. But yeah, it may come out to where I'm having to fuse a lot of this together. Another thing could be where I do actually overlap these together more, so they go in like that, which is not going to be the end of the world if it does. And with them all viewing like that, it may actually look better. But bringing these together, for instance, that eliminates the top. That eliminates that overhang. Crap. Yeah, it may be actually better. Crap! I learned a valuable lesson today. What's that? Do not leave gaps. Don't ever leave gaps. What's this little guy doing? He's just sticking right out there. It's not bad. I can go in here. Good grief, that's a huge gap. Yeah, I didn't even pay attention. Those gaps are way too big on the higher levels. So we can cheat and just, put another coin back there. We can fill in the gaps with extra coins. But don't bring them out so much that they look. You just see that there's not a gap there. But then again, you could, I guess, bring that out. It just kind of looks wonky. Wonky. It looks wonky, my nippany. My nippany looks not very good. It doesn't look good at all. That looks okay. Huge gap there. Huge Grant. I think because there's so many of them, you can get away with just about anything here. And the answer is yes. This guy, what is the deal with this guy? Is he the... How did he get up there? He's floating. He's floating. Oh. 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 You get my love, you get my something done. Sometimes you've got to just sing. Father, I want to just sing. None of that, none of that, none of that. Not have any singing in my kingdom. But Father, no, none of that. And you may be saying, well, why are you filling these in? Why don't you just let this, support fill it in? Well, I feel like a nut. I feel like it will be less support if I do this than if I let it just sit there bare boned. I may be wrong, but I have this feeling. I have this feeling deep inside of me. Da da da. Da da da. Hey, whoever gave me the extra like, thank you very much. If it's Mom, hey, I'll give you a call one of these days soon, Mom. Call you this weekend just to say hi. It's probably Mom coming in, give me a thumbs up. Thanks for the thumbs up, Mom. You're cool. You're short, but you're cool. Can't have everything. You can either be not cool or you can be tall. You got two choices. Well, I guess I'll be cool. Very well then. A midget you shall be. No! I am now a midget. This is terrible. This is actually even worse than... Oh, look at the gap on that bad boy. Boom. Need to even, just stick it on out there. What is this? Stick it on out there. And see, that looks a little bit better.
Looks a little bit better.
Do I have many gaps now? Well, I got a few, but it's not too bad. There's gaps all over the place. What am I talking about? You may wonder, well, what about this? Well, yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch of gaps, but we got a secret there. We got a secret there. We're going to make it all hollow. It's going to be a pain in the butt, but hopefully the thing will work. What we're going to do is make a cone inside there, and we're going to boolean it around there so that there is all this inner crap is going to get cut off by the cone, and that way the cone will have like no base and it'll be all hollow and it'll be nice and purty, and you'll be like, golly, that was a mighty smart idea. And I'd be like, it wasn't mine. I stole it from somebody. And they're like, who? And I was like, I ain't telling. I ain't telling. It's someone, though. I can tell you that. Oh, good grief. Look at the
Catastrophe of gaps here.
I don't think this is right. This may not be smart. Should I put the... Oh, yeah, this gap over here. Put it right there. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Put it right there. Da-da. Da-da-da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Boom, 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 rough, boom, 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 rough. He's a tramp, he's a tramp, he's a tramp. Oh, ba-da-ba-da-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. Boom, boom, do, ba, do. Do-do-do-do. Boom, boom, do, ba, do. Ba-da-ba-do. Ba-ba-ba-boom. Do you like to sing while you're drawing? I bet you do. I knew you could. This is so tedious. My gosh. Why don't people just skip forward? Why are they watching all of this? They're sitting through it all. Not just the good stuff, but the bad, the tedious, the horrid, the saddened, the weary. I don't understand it. I look and you're there. You're still there.
Remember when I told you not to overlap any coins and things like that? Just forget I said that. Just forget I said that entirely. Go ahead and overlap the crap out of them because that's really what you need to do. Because I'm a fool. I did it. I didn't do that. And as a result, I'm paying the price. See what I'm doing right here? I could grab all three of these. Yeah, I know. But then I got like consistencies. I'm going to offset that. Now it looks like two Siamese coins. And it looks like two Siamese coins there too. We'll put them back. Good grief. Whose stupid idea was this to freaking ruin my drawing? I drew my thing and I ruined it.
Yeah, there's just too many of these gaps that need to be sealed off because I'm going to be trying to make this thing nice and hollow, and I want the walls to be there. The walls are going to have to be a little more supportive because these are literally going to be the walls, and this is part of it. I am going to boolean a cone inside it to kind of give it a support, but for the most part, this is all going to be 100% coin operated and coin supported. So if I make them with all these holes in them, then you're not going to have, this is going to be real weak. And it will not take much to crank. I don't care how many stacks of coins you make, it's going to be a little on the weak side. I am not going to be able to make this in one night because there's just too much going on. I'm just going to go until I get a little tired. Wheezy. A little wheezy. And then I'm going to, like, just go eat. Eat me some food, just like you should. You should go eat something. Go eat some supper. Am I not all the way around? My gosh. There's so many of these plastic coins. And there's just... How many do I got? I have 412 right now. Actually 411. Now 412. And I knew that because I hit Control A. Control A is like the universal Control All, Select All. It's in the command is common in most programs, but Control A will select everything. And then once you hit Control A, you look over here on the right. It says 417 objects selected. Well, I know I've got a cone that I made, so that's one less than that number, and I have my polygon die out there, so that's two less in this case. If that matters, which it doesn't. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Ba-da-da-da, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. Boom, 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 boom. Do, 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 do. Ah, this will never end. I will do this for the rest of my life, and then I will be gone. Oh my goodness, there's tons on this side. Jeez, so freaking weeds. Okay. Alright, there we go. There's like 6 rows, and it looks like it's looking pretty good. There's plenty of room there. And again, I'm going to cut a lot of that stuff off, I hope. I'm going to get this thing out of here. Row 7 with lesson learned. Lesson has learned. Learned has lessened. Why don't you just use the array button or the spacing tool and it just spaces it all in a circle, then you can just rotate a little bit and it'll be off centered. It'll look fine. Well, it's because I don't want it to look universal. I want it to look man-made, like, natural. I want it to look natural. Like the pile fell in a sense that it was supposed to fall. So that people will say, those look like they fell.
That was the A-team.
Good grief, look at the gap on that one. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. I got choked up.
Hello, everyone. I appreciate your dedication as you watch the most monotonous.
I'm actually going to title this video, Dude Spends Hours Copying and Pasting. Hours and hours. This is going to be a great speed up. You're going, oh my gosh, this is going to take so long. Alright. Alright, well, I don't want to do that. Go for another half an hour, and then we're going to shut it down, because I can only take so much tenacious day. How we do on the top? Getting awful close. After these messages, we'll be right back. After these messages, we'll be right back. Remember that? It's from Nickelodeon back in like the 90s. And times were good. Times were but simpler. We all thought, we have all the time in the world. This is going to have a heck of an overhang right there. My goodness. I'm going to bring these bad boys out. Yeah. That's why I got this cone. If I didn't have this cone, wouldn't do this right. As my boy, as my hero, Anchor and Farnail says, Got all these cool books, but I don't know how to use them. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Roothammer. Yes, sirree, Bob. I mean it.
Back scratcher. Back scratcher. Back scratcher. Back scratcher.
All right.
Let us continue. We are making our way to victory, which is the pinnacle of this monstrosity of the summit. We must not fail. Failing is not an opportunity. Instead, we must be victorious.
Victorious. Notorious. Victorious. She's a lady, she's a she's a lady. Ooh, baby, she's a lady. I did not want that one. That goes. Oh, wait. That one displeases me. Baby. When you asked me, hey, why don't would you like to log on and do a little modeling tonight? And I say, yeah. And then you'd say, it's going to take a long time of tenacious stuff. I would say,
Bring it on.
dang it. It whistled at me. It told me not to do that no more. I don't know why. I don't know why you treat me like you do. Saying all the good things you're putting me through. My sweet 16.
Hasn't happened yet. Oh, why? Oh, tell me. Tell me how. How do I steal? Take me to the river and wash me down. Take me to the river and let both feet behind the ground. Do you like what I'm doing here? Does it please you? Do you like watching this? Why? This should drive you nuts. This is only for those who are criminally insane. Those who have lost their minds long ago. In a time that was a peaceful age. A time when all was well in the world. And no one was going about hitting the rabbits on the head. But now they got rabbits hitting on their heads all the time. And the rabbits don't make it. They don't like it at all, no. So what they do? Well, they started a fight. They'd nibble on people every now and again. Just a little friendly nibble. A warning, if you will. Hey, stop popping off my hand. And then we kept doing it. So that nibble started to come to a nice bite. And then the bite started to be chomping off our hands. We started losing hands left and right. Everybody's losing their hands. The left one and the right one. And we didn't have any hands left. And that's when the rabbits really got mad. You think that now that we don't have hands, we can't do anything. You can't bump them on the head. Rabbit Foo-Foo can't do that. But they were right. They don't like us. Here's they come, thumping on our heads. It was a dark time. A time that I get choked up on when I even think about it. A time that should not be a problem, but it is. Now the cool part is I'm going to actually like bring these out a little bit, some of these pieces, like that, and that way it actually looks like this. Oops, that's not the right one. Well, who did that? I'm going to try that again. Something like that. And now it looks like it just has a more natural piece there to it. It's still cool. Right? You tell me it's cool. You tell me. I want to hear it. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Does that look cool? Is that cool? I do okay. We'll start looking more natural. Is everybody satisfied now? Fine. Fine. Alright. We are on number 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, wait a minute. We're on like 10. Boop, 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 boop. We're on 11. Oh my gosh, we went way past the level that I thought we were on. We're on
Level 12. Did everybody brush their teeth today? Why not? See, I can sound just like him. Why are all of these so high up? Did I do the wrong ones again? Wait a minute, I didn't. What did I do here? I did like a whole row and I haven't even like done anything. That was stupid. That was really dumb. Why did I do that? Because I'm not paying any attention. I'm just doing things. Get off my back. Gosh. It's not that big a deal. I just figured good enough. It's good enough.
Now I'm going to do it like multiple times in a row.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Something like that. Making biscuits. Sometimes they peek out. Sometimes they don't peek out. Sometimes they're staying inside that cone. That's a protective. Oh, we're at the top. We're at the top. It's going to go by a lot faster now, I can tell. Now we're going to actually line these coins up somewhat. Not really. We're just going to put them on here because this is the top row. We don't have to worry about anything ever. Oops. That sucked. Now I'm going to. Oh, I'm just going to stop there. Alright, so that is the tray. We are completed with the tray. The nice thing is with the tray, we are going to just fill that in to make it look like it's coins, but it's really not. It's going to be, because we don't want cocked dice in this, but we're going to make it look like it's coins down there. And the trick is that we'll basically just make them ever so creased, but we'll worry about that later. For now, we're going to save. And that is the height of, oops, oh, wait a minute, how did I do that? Let's see, get out of the way. Oh no, that's kind of freaky. That's kind of freaky indeed. Alright, where did I make the mistake? Because that, oh, that's all it is. Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying much of attention. I don't like that. Boom, 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 boom. Sorry. I had to check on something. Just relax. It's not that big of a deal. We've got it covered right here on UHF. We got it all on UHF. We got it all on UHF. Just turn up the volume and crank up the knob. We got it all on UHF. If you all were wondering, gee, freaking ways, how many coins do you got there? 673. 673. Actually, I'm gonna hide that guy. 673. And the thing of it is, I don't want it just to be coins. I want it to be like treasure. So we're going to be putting a sword. You know what? Let's do that. Let's break the monotony for a little bit. Let's just diverge from that. And we're going to just select, shoot. Yeah, we'll just select all that. Those are coins. I'm making a soft select. This is a selective, I can't remember what the name of it is. Selective, soft select? No, it's some kind of selective thing. And it's basically, it's not making a group. Oh, what was it called? Selection set? That's it. Never know the name of these. And basically, you can select things and just name it. And then when you select it, it automatically selects that. It works well when you don't want to group things, but you just want to be able to select all at one time, which is good. You can save that real quick. And I want to hide unselected. Oop, I don't want to, I want to unfreeze. And then hide unselected. Because we're just making something separate now. Now we're going to go to the front view. And we want to make a sword that doesn't look like, you know, Link's sword or something like that. We just want it to look like, you know, a freaking cool sword. But it's going to be kind of cartoony. So brace yourself. Brace yourselves. I'm going to adjust that size. Basically, I'm just going to start with a box. And then we're going to shape that box. We're going to make this thing like pointy right here. And then we're going to have it like come in a little bit at the hilt. So we're going to need a line right there. And a line right there. So you need two lines, two segments. I mean, you can call it three because you have three segments, two lines. And then you add editable poly. Select this vertex. Select the top one, just move it up. Yonder. Doesn't matter where. Doesn't matter where. Just, somewhere right there. I forgot to put the middle one. We need a middle one down the middle so we can have a point. So that would be the height. No, the width. Oh my goodness. Screw that. If you add an edit poly and start moving things around and go back to the box, it doesn't do well. So just select your edge, and just select these right here. Then go down to your connect button, go to settings, and it automatically will just make that cut for you. And you can tell Max to, suck it. Because you figured it out. Even though we couldn't do it, you did it. Because you're the winner. Select these two outer ones. We're going to make a point. And actually, take that back. Don't do that. We're going to make a point. And how are we going to do that? We're going to get our snap tool on. We're going to select just the outer one for now, these two. Both of these. And we're going to move them in like that. And then you can do the same thing for the other side. Alternatively, you can go over here and click Target Weld, which is right here. And then just either left click the two box, or you can drag and let go. You can either drag and let go, or you can click once on that and then click once again on that. Either way, you're going to make a fine chicken salad. All right, so I'm going to go back to my front view and bring this thing in a little bit because it's going to be, you know, something like that. The whole thing's too wide, so we're making it into a sword. And then that point's awful sharp. We could make it super sharp or make it super dull. That's fine. And then I want this top piece here is going to be the hilt. But I want it to come up onto the piece here. I don't want it just to come out of there. So we're going to make another connection by selecting all those horizontals and go back to that connect button. Click that settings. Just need one. It's good enough. And from here, what we need to do, go back to the P, and pretty much what I would do is just do a cut. It's right here, up here on the right. Turn on your snap tool, and I'm going to snap corner to corner. Center corner to there, right click to deselect, but just once so you can keep the cut tool selected but not continue that cut. So you click once where you want to cut to begin with, click the second left click where you want to stop, and so you don't continue, just right click one time and it cancels the cut but keeps your tool going so you can keep going. There you go, there's one, and you can actually cut like that and then right click. Yeah, see, I've got something cool now. Alright, turn off my cut tool. I want to select all this, and we're going to see what bevel does. And we're going to change from group normals to local normal. It does not seem like it wants to do much good there. We can go backwards. That may not be too bad of an idea. Let's do that a little ways, and then we're going to just bevel, but not. We're not going to actually bevel. We'll use the extrude part of the bevel. And this time, I definitely don't want. I don't want all that crap. Well, maybe I do. I don't want it to be too fancy. I just want it to be a sword. That's it. So right now, actually, what I'm going to do is go back here and get this thing to be flat, because that's part of my problem, is that all this is just like up and down. So we go back to that align tool, click that Z button. Well, that didn't work. It joined them all together. See how that looked like? Looked like crap. So we're going to try the Y button. And the Y works. Why? It's because we used the front view to draw this. And here's something you need to pay attention to. So I used the front view to draw this thing. Initially, the box. Remember that? You see how the Y is pointing upward now and the X is pointing to the side? That means that this object thinks that the Y, no matter what orientation I am in, it thinks Y is up. Even though when I go back to perspective view, the Z-axis is actually pointing up now. That's not what the object thinks it is. It still thinks that Y is vertical. So that's why I had to click the Y as the plane instead of Z, because it thinks the Y is up and down. Neat, huh? Alright. So now I'm going to select all this, select that, select those two. Or do it. No. I want to select the outer edge, not the inner. Outer edge. This. And now bevel this bad boy out. Change it to local normals. That looks terrible, but it does not look like it's going to print very well. Oh well. It's going to be so small, you're not going to see much detail, so it's better to make the detail nice and big. So we're just going to make this whole thing. I wish you could change the orientation of that group normal so it's outward. Change it to local normal so that it actually goes in the direct directions, and we'll clean that up later. You can bring it in a little bit, but boy, that's going to look like crap, so I'm just going to keep it as is. Once again, I'm going to have to flatten this top level. And once again, it's going to be Y instead of Z because that's where you picked it on. And matter of fact, if you had L and Z and zoom in, you can see that these things are not lined up right. I want them to be lined up, and it be not X, but Z in this time. Z, because, well, coordinations kind of suck when you model things in different perspectives. In front view and perspective, you you build things in different views, and you're going to see the consequences mainly in the coordinates system. But nevertheless, we're back to here, and looks like we're good here. So I want to just take the top, and we're going to work on this for a little bit. I want to zoom back a little bit so I can actually see what I like and what I don't like about this, because it's going to be shot from a distance. And then I want another one for that piece there, but we're not going to do that. We'll do that separately. I'm going to make it similar to this, where it's a point here. So I'm going to use collapse. It's right here. It takes all those and fuses them all together into one, like that. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to bevel these pieces out, or do we want to? Yeah, we'll keep it squared. And yeah, I'll make them go out. Majestic. Oh my gosh, we are drawing something that looks very similar to something that we shouldn't be doing. Nah, it's fine. This looks close enough, but it's not something that is going to be trademarked. It just looks like a sword. I know you all think it is, but it doesn't matter. All right. And this whole thing needs to be shrunk down in thickness, because I don't really like it. Yeah, it looks better. In fact, actually, the edges need to be fused together. Can I actually collapse edges? Yeah, but they go the wrong way. So we're going to just do it the hard way. F3 so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to start collapsing these so that it has an edge. See what I'm saying? It's going to have an edge. Don't want it to be a wood sword. I want it to be an actual sword. But I want this. Do I want it that far? Yeah, I want it that far. But not any farther. Oh, maybe so. I guess so. Alright, that's good. Alright, so now I've got a nice little sword here. It looks awfully weak right there, but I think it'll be alright because we're just going to lean it up against something. And then I was going to just extrude that. I guess I will. I wanted it to be around, but it ain't going to happen. We'll chamfer it. That's why we're going to do it. And then, oops, went too far. Went too far. Make it a stubby little sword. Something like that. And then, not that way. And go back out. Flare it a little bit. Just and bring it back in. Bring it down a little bit. And then the vertices are a little bit too far out for my taste. So we'll bring them back in. Squeeze them in. Scale it down. That's good enough. That's a quick sword. That looks like a sword. We're not going to worry about it being rounded on that because it really doesn't matter. We are going to put a slot in the middle, though, because that's what swords do. And I don't want all of these. I think I just want the middle. Yeah, just want the middle. To do this, you want to hit the extrude button, but you want the settings. And what that does is allows you to use the bottom one, which satisfies the width of your split. Now, in this case, it's going to be super small. So in this case, I want it to be kind of over dramatic a bit, so that, but not so much that it's going to be. I don't want these two sides, this side and this side, touching each other inside the thing. You see how close they are together? I don't want them too close together where they're overlapping. And I also don't want this to be very far apart or too close, because this is not that much plastic. So we're going to bring it out just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. And now we've got a nice little sword. And that's going to go somewhere, in the vicinity of this thing. So we're going to call it sword. And then we're going to move it, I don't know, somewhere like that. We're going to rotate it. Actually, I'm going to make a copy first. And this is going to be, no, I'm not going to call it Master Sword. But I am going to call it Sword Master. All right, and this is going to be used. All right, hide this one. And then I'm going to start rotating this one a little bit at a time so I can actually have some local. Change that. You can actually, not just for the movement, you can actually change your gears, your gizmo to local. Just drop it down to there, and then that way it actually rotates on its face. And that way I'm going to not just totally shove it in there, because then I lose all my detail. Something like that. Yeah. Unhide by name. I want all the cylinders. I think. Coins. I think I got them all. Let me see. Unhide all. See, that's why I don't like to unhide all. Doesn't look like it. Looks like it has all of them. You guys can go. But yeah, so that goes into it, and that's part of the system right there. Is the shield, or is the sword that will be part of the jewel, part of the whatchamacallit. I guess speaking of jewel, we can actually pop this bad boy out. All we have to do is take the vertices on this side, grab this middle one here. Make sure you're on local time. That way, see how that X that is just perpendicular to the face, and just pull that bad boy out. Not too far, but just enough that you got a little bit of a, gem or ruby or something like that. Simple, effective, no big deal. Okay. So after you got that done, then I think I'm going to call it a night here, because it's been 2 hours, I think. I can't remember how long I've been going. How long I've been going? I don't know. Let's find out. I have been going for... It doesn't tell me. Oh, yeah, it does. A little over 2 hours. So, yeah, I went over my 2-hour mark. I tried to bring it on back. Bring it on back. But, yeah. So this is clearly looking awesome, because, I said so. And we'll just continue. I'll probably not stream the next time to build the coins up. And then once I've got all the coins up, we'll do the rest of the detail work afterwards. But that's basically the start of it. Is you can see that it's going to be some kind of a tray, and then the coins just follow right on up that, and then we'll start working on the treasure chest up at the top. Looks pretty cool though, doesn't it? Yep, it does. All right. So I'm gonna throw this up there, and oh, I might be on tomorrow night, but I'm not. Like I said, I won't stream any more of the coins. I don't want to put anybody in that misery again. That was pretty awful, brutal. But but yeah, once I get that all up there, we'll stream again, and we will kick it one more time in this brother and sisterhood that we have made among us, 3D modelers. All right, I am shutting off. I wish you well. Hope you have a delightful week that goes into the weekend, and it is equally delightful. Until the next time, folks, I'm going to try to post a little bit of a warning next time on Facebook to let everybody know when I'm streaming the next time, because I do want to get back into this thing on a regular basis. We may not be able to do consistently on Mondays and Wednesdays, but I will post in the mornings if I'm going to be looking like I'm going to get to stream that night. So it's kind of important if you really want to catch these streams. Very simple. You follow the Facebook page. I do not spam at all on that. I hardly post very much at all, if any thing on the Facebook. Simple Polytricks on, just search that and you'll find it. Follow it, and then you'll get notified when I post, letting everybody know what time I'll be broadcasting. The time is always going to be Central Standard Time, so I'll help out a little bit on that. For those who are different countries, just kind of I'll point out the hour. I think we're on negative 6 Greenwich. I think it's -6 hours. So until then, keep an eye on the Facebook page, and we're gonna get this started running again. Kickstarter. I'm thinking we're getting close to getting this whole Enchanted Forest collection fixed, ready to go, finalized, painted, and hopefully get some resin printers purchased with this Kickstarter, and then that way I can start making some molds for you guys that don't have 3D printers, and you can start making your orders for these things, and I can send them right to your house. So, all right, until then, have a great week. We'll see you soon. Mwahahahahaha. Zoom in.